switch off your videos just to make sure that we don't share too much. Thank you.
Okay, it's 10:05. Welcome everyone. I hope you all had a great summer and you're all back to full force to working. And well, we would like to welcome you to the fifth and the final HUL workshop of the CLICK project. My name is Deniz İkizkaya, and I'm an assistant professor at the Eindhoven University of Technology in the Netherlands. We are also one of the CLICK partners. And also thank you for dedicating this time to gather together. Actually, we have a big variety of local stakeholders representing the local administrative bodies, the NGOs and experts from the 4 pilot cases, cities and regions that are partners of the CLICK project. So we have a lot of participants from Västra City of Rijeka, Salerno, and Amsterdam. And thank you and welcome again for being here. As you all know, CLICK is a Horizon 2020 research and innovation project that focuses on the adaptive reuse of cultural heritage and circular economy. And during the 3-year duration of this project, there have been a high number of innovative circular finance, business, and governance models and instruments that have been developed to support adaptive reuse. And actually, this workshop is going to be the last one. And we have conducted previous ones in all the 4 pilot cities. Unfortunately, this one we had to do online due to the COVID regulations, but nevertheless, it's great to even meet virtually. And so, I mean, the aim of this workshop is basically to assess and examine the innovative tools that have been developed along the way, and these include like circular governance tools such as decision support systems and heritage innovation partnerships. Some of them related to knowledge and planning, so economic landscapes, perception mapping of barriers have been some of the tools. There have been also several economic and business models that will help the owners of these historic buildings or sites that will actually reuse the buildings. Some are environmental strategies and some are regulatory related evaluation tools. So what we aim to do with this workshop today is to initially introduce you to some of these innovative tools that have been developed by the CLICK project. Most of them have been tested and actually validated in these pilot cities. And then we would like to actually, after this introduction session, to show you these tools. And then we will go into these breakout rooms. And we are going to use some interactive whiteboard where we are going to, where we expect each pilot, and so Amsterdam, Salerno, Rijeka, and Västra to come together and to discuss whether these tools are really feasible and useful within their local context. And you know, if there are any challenges that have been encountered in its implementation, or hypothetically there are some like barriers that you might encounter. We would like to discuss them all. And then after these assessments in individual groups, we'll gather together again in the wrap-up session, and we expect one from each city or group to represent the results, and then we'll conclude. And also thank you for writing up the introductions in the chat box. Unfortunately, since we have a high number of participants, we cannot have an interactive introduction, but at least we can see who is here and in the chat box, and also in the smaller breakout rooms, we might have more time to get to know each other. So now I will leave the space to my colleague, Nadia, and she will tell you more about the technical details of how this workshop will be run. Thank you.
Thank you, Deniz. Hi, everyone. So normally now you are seeing my screen and a lot of wonderful rainbow colors. I hope it's the case. So as Denise explained you, we will have 2 sessions. In each session, we will assess a set of tools, the one presented in each video. We are going to be divided in teams based on a geographical pilot in a way. And I ask each team to define a person that is going to be the reporter. So at the end, we will come together again and we will share the results of our discussion. As you might see here on my screen, we have 4 areas. Each of these teams is going to use one of those. Let's look closer, for instance, to the Salerno one. By the way, they are all the same. So we will start by assessing the tools in this area, and you find here a very short reminder of what these tools are, and you find the sticky notes. So before starting to really assess the tools based on the usefulness and feasibility of this tool, we shall indicate if you had the chance to implement or not, to test or not this tool, and how we are going to do so. You will need this easier with your mouse. You're going to select by clicking with the left button of your mouse on the sticky notes. At this point, you have this wonderful toolbar appearing, and if you select the tag icon here, as I'm doing now, you will be able to press over the text like the red one and assign it, or remove it by pressing again. Let's assume that the example tool I'm using is very useful and very feasible. At this point, I'm gonna drag it in this part of the scheme. To drag a sticky note, you need to position your cursor over it, and then by keeping pressing your left button of the mouse, you can drag it around, as I might do now. Hello, Maya. Once we have assessed all the tools for that session and we are satisfied with our discussion, then it's time to identify the challenges encountered in the use and implementation of such tools or models. We prepare for you a selection of barriers that you can find here, and they are described on the left. And here, these white bubbles, each of them represent one of the tools or models. Of course, some barriers apply and are encountered in the implementation of multiple models. So what we are gonna do is need to duplicate these sticky notes. So to duplicate the sticky notes, again, you select it, and either you type with your keyboard, Control-D and magic, or you can use your mouse, but this time you're gonna be using the right button, and then you can select the duplicate option in this menu. At this point, you are ready to assign, discuss first and decide upon the barriers, and then, oh, sorry, very sorry for that, and then assign them to the tools, as I just did. One more thing, you might have experience or some barriers that are not listed. In this case, you just need to navigate to the far left side of your screen, and there you can find the sticky notes tool to add new tools, this one. And then you will be able to choose the color, and by clicking, you can position the new barrier, the missing one. Of course, you're also very welcome to add details to the barriers and explain a bit more. And you can do so using the comment function that you again find in the same menu on the left, this little comics balloon here. You just click on sticky notes, add your comment, and you share with everyone using the blue arrow. If you haven't implemented a tool, it's not a problem. You can still figure out, or kind of you might expect some barriers, and then you will just make this discussion on the expected barrier to the implementation, but it's perfectly fine. So maybe now I stop sharing. Oh yes, sorry, my bad. One more thing. To work in teams, we created some room where you can have a conversation. So every now and then on your screen, there is this window popping up asking you to join a room or come back here in the main room where we are all together. In order to make this transition faster, please accept the moving, so that we can be faster instead of waiting for the countdown to go off. Now, I go back, and if there are any question or comment, maybe you can raise your hand, digital hand, by going in the participant panel on your right, and you have a button for that, or you can just type it in the chat. Otherwise, if maybe you can type in the chat that it's okay, so we can have a feedback.
Yeah, actually, Jillian asked for the link for the Miro, and
sorry.
we'll appreciate. Yeah, I've shared it, and we'll appreciate if you can just check whether you have access to it. But in every case, in the breakout rooms, I mean, it's okay if only one person has access to Miro, shares his or her screen, and then makes adjustments for all of you. So that's also an option. So. No, you don't have to join a team in Miro now. We will put you into breakout rooms. And once you're in the breakout rooms will represent the cities themselves. There you can be within a team. So, yeah. I mean, for our partners or like stakeholders coming from Salerno, you'll be in, of course, in the Salerno team, and partners from Amsterdam will be in Amsterdam, so forth. Yeah. Okay, now then if there are no more any questions about the conduct of the workshop, we would like to proceed with the introduction of the tools. And so we asked all of our partners to produce very short video clips explaining and describing the actually the circular tools that they have developed and tested during this project. And we would like to show you these short pitches. They are not of the best quality, sorry to tell that, but please bear in mind. And if you have any questions, and if there's anything that is not clear for you in these presentations about the circular tools or instruments, then you could just type it in the chat box, and then after the watching of the video, we can maybe the tool developer might explain us better the questions, might address them, and then we'll go into the breakout rooms. Thank you very much, and I'll stop the recording now. We'll start showing the video.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I will go over the discussion in the Verastra Catalan group. One thing that was relevant to many of the discussions of the individual tools is that Vestra Catalan is a region. So for the region, some of the tools are handled differently because they might be more appropriate to a building or a project. So there was that discussion several times throughout. Okay, so the perception mapping was interesting, but they had not applied it so far. After they used it, after they did it, but after it was done, it hadn't been applied further, let's say. It hadn't been taken further. The economic landscape mapping was more useful after it was done. It was originally not so clear on the context why to collect the data, which made it a bit hard because there was a long list of data requested at the beginning of the project. But then after it was all collected, they found it to be useful on an ongoing basis. They needed to collect sources from existing sources and new data as well, and trying to coordinate that with different municipalities from the region was difficult. and also, for example, encountered some legal barriers where the municipality wasn't allowed to give the data to the region. Also, it may have been more difficult, they perceived, because they were collecting data for the rural areas. So the data was somewhat hard to find, but in the end, maybe there wasn't so much there to find. Then moving on to business models. Business models were very well received. They believed they were very useful. The presentation was at first complicated, but was well structured, and it took a lot of preparation. They felt the facilitation was very helpful and useful, and they are still using the business model material now. One of the benefits was that the business model discussion fit very well with their existing activities in terms of timing, because they could see an interest, because they could see that the ideas brought up in the business model workshops have a path towards implementation. And the region thinks they could apply the method alone for municipalities or for projects in future. So it has been well received and very useful. And yes? Was there something to add?
Then a minute.
Okay. I can't go through all of them, or am I going through the first session now? Okay, so then the financial ones, they hadn't heard about it before. The decision support system, they hadn't yet tried it, but they thought it could be helpful. The sixth one was the network analysis. It hadn't yet been used, but they were curious about it and thought it could be useful in finding about the synergies and information that could be missed otherwise. The environmental strategies had not been applied by the region because it's based for a specific building. And I have to move quickly now. And then they thought that it definitely explains what circular economy for the environment was and useful as an educational tool, but it's really at a building level, and stakeholders at a building level.
Okay,
Number
Jillian,
8.
Can you just,
yes?
20 seconds, tell us something about the barriers so that we can move on with Amsterdam, please?
Well, I would say that the biggest barriers, and anyone else feel free to step in, well, do you want me to finish? There's only 8 and 9 left, the evaluation tool and the self-evaluation.
Our time is up, so just one word about the biggest barrier and it's okay for now.
I refuse. I won't play this game. If you can't give me a minute to finish what the group spent all the time doing, then I refuse to do it.
Okay,
Nadia.
I hope we will have time later to come back. Now it's time to see what the others have done. Please, Thomas, can you share your screen and take the floor? Thank you.
Mute. Okay, so now you can hear me. So we talked in the Amsterdam group, and everybody who was there, feel free to add something. We talked about the feasibility and the usefulness to both Pakhuis de Zwijger, was a case in CLIC, and Bureau 8080, which is a bureau that advises different parties in the cultural sector on sustainability. And we for the representative of Bureau 8080, it was all of the instruments that were introduced were new. So we also had some discussions about what they were. And we thought that in general, everything that has to do with checklists and and having a visual representation of really what's going on is very useful. I will go by them one by one. So the circular business model we did with Pakhuis de Zwijger, I think it was feasible and could be very useful, but is now a little bit less useful because we're in COVID-19 and we haven't used it yet. So I put it on not useful. The perception mapping and economic landscape mapping could be very feasible and useful. Especially because we're also, and that's something Bureau 8080 said, also always looking for how the environment and people around are invested in the cultural institutions and the things they do, and also the sustainability of them. Then the circular economy strategies, again, feasible and useful, but with the possible or the extra thing that maybe how are they different from BREEAM? We discussed that, and also we said that it is possibly more into like a checklist for circular things that you can do and not sustainability in general. The financial instruments were so new to us that we don't know about the feasibility and usefulness. The decision support system and the click evaluation tool we thought was more for government or for bigger and institutes, so that we for us it was less feasible as a building or an institute. And then the social network analysis is something that we do more informally. So it could be useful, for example, to do that for a municipality where we know how the different structures within the municipality would work, but we thought it would be a little bit less feasible to do that for a municipality. And then we talked about the barriers as well. Finance, of course, an obvious one, especially now during COVID-19. Demands of time is something that we encounter again and again because we need to have time, especially by the strategy makers, and they need to invest in these kind of strategies. And that's a big challenge always. And then when we talked about circularity, especially, the Bureau 8080 said that data and information is always a difficult thing.
Thank you, Thomas. Maybe we can go to the next, and then for those that do not have commitments, we can come back and see much more because about all of you. Can please Rijeka join the floor and sharing the screen? Marco, please. Thank you. Marco, we don't hear you.
Yes. Do you hear me now? I mean, my Zoom, it's,
yes.
you hear me now, but I don't see my screen. Okay, let me see. Okay, so as you may see on the here, we have seen all the proposals, or those, although some of them were not clearly implemented because some of them we have seen just today. Quite useful, I would say, all of them. Of course, we were not positioning them at the extreme of any part of the chart, but quite useful, all of them. I would say those ones that were implemented in Rijeka, like the economic landscape, the perception mapping, the decision support system, the urban seeding that we could not introduce to you today, but it would be, and it was something developed by us, and then the circular business model and the self-assessment survey. These were very useful, and I would say also feasible for what we have seen in Rijeka. with some of the, of course, of the constraints that you may see on the chart that is on the right, so about the barriers. Some others can be useful, I would say, somehow less feasible, I would say, for the city of Rijeka, especially the financial instruments, because we have seen that it's a quite, at the moment at least, a strong difficulty in implementing mixed tools, let's say, in financing cultural activities, although this would be very appreciated in the framework of the Cultural Capital 2020. The click evaluation tool, it's we position that as less feasible because it's quite, expert oriented, so something that is really requiring a good skills and a lot of investigations, which is maybe at the moment more difficult to be implemented in the city. For the rest, I think you see very clearly what we have there. About the, we did it in a rush because it was not much time. Here you see some of the small descriptions of the barriers. I'm not sure that we were very good in indicate all of them, but as you may see, we have justifications of what we have put on the charts. So sometimes it's really a matter of expertise. Some other times it's a matter of in the integration, in the sense that some of the tools that were implemented are needing additional tools. For example, the perception mapping, which we liked a lot, was in any case needing a special analysis, as in the traditional urban development and management processes. But I just taken the first one that was there. Some others are were some, in a sense, for example, the circular business model that we also liked a lot was we put a burden because it took a lot of effort, of course, but this is clear. So I would not take this evaluation as a sort of final one, because of course in all the tools we applied, apart from the urban seeding that is not here and the decision support system, there was much less time than usually foreseen for this kind of tools. So that's all from our side.
Thank you, Marco. Now Salerno can take the floor, please.
I don't know if Salvatore is there, but if not, I can present.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I will share my screen. Just a second. Okay, so we go to, yeah, the Salerno group. We had a general discussion about the tools presented. As you see, we have placed almost all in the same place, because the general discussion was about the usefulness of all the instruments presented, even if the time for going in depth in all the instruments was few, but all the instruments in general have been evaluated as very useful, very well prepared, but the feasibility of all of them is difficult in the context of Salerno. High interest was given to the social network analysis as a possibility for also the municipality to understand better the system of relationships between the various stakeholders, and also a discussion was started about the financial instruments, in particular the project development assistance, that could be useful to also overcome some barriers that are common to all the instruments implementation. So as you see, we have identified a set of barriers that are meant for all the different instruments. And I would spend some words on this because one of the most important barriers was identified as the scarce willingness of policy actors to implement the tools, but also perhaps the scarce knowledge of the availability of this kind of tools and how to implement them. So this is also related to a scarcity of human resources, especially in the municipality of Salerno, because many people are leaving for a matter of age, and there is lower and lower level of human resources in the municipality, and also lack of expertise that is related to human resources to implement these tools. Another point, another important point is about, yeah, I have 1 minute, okay, is about the lack of long-term vision and planning. So it is difficult for the stakeholders to plan in a long term, and everything is based on the emergency of day-by-day management. So the assistance in developing good projects could be very useful for this context of Salerno. And this could help also to unlock some new financial resources for that. Okay, so I think this is more or less everything. And also, yeah, cultural barriers in implementation, which is all related to the difficulty of finding the resources, both human, financial, for developing good projects based on reliable data and so on. Okay.
We are running a bit over time. Our apologies with everyone. Maybe we can say goodbye to those that have other commitments, and then we can resume the sharing of the results for those that they are willing and can stay with us a bit longer. So, oh, sorry.
Okay, from me it's all.
Thank you. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We hope that you find it interesting. We would like to hear from you, even just say something in the something in the chat. And for those that can stay a bit longer, maybe we can resume the presentations, the sharing of the results, again in the same order. So if Jillian is willing to take the floor, we can complete the presentation, and now we are a bit more relaxed.
Is there anyone from Master Gotan? Jillian?
I see Jillian is, yeah, she's
perfect.
back
Okay.
too.
Well, I would like to just say one thing. I think that as researchers, we have a responsibility to those who are participating, who take out the time from their day to participate. And if we ask them to do a task, then we should allow them to time for completing it. I do realize that there's a time constraint. I do understand that. And I think we all do. But I certainly think it needs to be said that getting our data should not be our only goal, but creating cooperation and participation and respect for participants should be the goal. And I don't mean the academic participants only. I'm actually more thinking about the other participants as opposed to the academic participants. Okay, so that's what I have to say on that. So to continue, if Vera is available and wouldn't mind sharing the screen.
I'm sorry for the weird zooming in,
Thank you.
zooming out. But,
okay, so there was the evaluation tool. The discussion about the evaluation, yes? I'm sorry, I don't.
I just said that it's difficult to find an appropriate zoom in, zoom out on my computer.
On the evaluation tool, there were two different types of feedback. The user feedback on the interviews felt that it was perhaps a bit vague on how the questions connected to the local cases. But the manager feedback is that it goes very well, that it's worked very well for them so far. And in terms of the connection to the action plans, the local action plans, they're working on those now, so it's to be determined. The last one was the self-evaluation, and that was applied and could be useful. So I can see here, if you
I don't hear anymore. Is it just me?
Yeah, no, I think
I can't hear her.
we don't get you, Jillian. Okay, let's see if this, I guess, technical problem get results soon. Jillian, do you hear us? We don't hear you. Okay, is maybe someone from the team that can, or you prefer to?
I have a message from Salvatore. Perhaps he wants to add something to my resume of the presentation. If you're there, you can take the word. just for you to know.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we try to find where the audio is gone for Jillian.
Okay. I will add just a few words to what Antonia said. Can you hear me? I have some problems in connection.
Yes, we hear you. Thank you.
Okay. We talk also of financial budget constraint. That's not exactly true, because sometimes there is a general lack of information. This lack of information is about financial opportunities and about network opportunity. Social network analysis we talked about before could be very important, because it helped in building a new, newly oriented relation among different categories. In particular, we positively experimented the building of relationship among the municipality, university, and technician, people interested in projects, and also people interested in doing things for the city. We lack somebody, we lack firms specialized in circularity in some part of the process aimed to build circularity in the city. In particular, firms that can support excuse me, realizing things, buildings, refurbishings, and so on. And we lack also some technical knowledge about financial opportunity. So we need to build a better relation, and we also, as Antonia said, need to look for even farther than usually a territory does. This is not only a problem of the municipality, it's probably changing the way we see things. We need to look at long term, because only looking forward we can realize good things in terms of circularity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing the final details. Jillian is trying to come back to the conversation. If someone else wants to add a bit more about what they have discussed and share a bit more, it's very welcome to just unmute herself or himself, please. Maybe Thomas.
I think Thomas is gone because he said bye.
Oh, I missed that. Maybe someone else from the Amsterdam group can, if they wish to add something more to the conversation.
I don't know if Jillian is
Yeah,
there.
sorry, I'm not gone.
Okay.
I said bye to somebody leaving, but I was I had some difficulties with my sound. But yeah, I rushed through a little bit as well. But I think Eefje from Euro 8080, she had to leave. But that leaves me from Pakhuis de Zwijger and the academic partners of the academic click partners from Amsterdam. But yeah, I would I don't know if there's anybody who still wants to ask questions about the Amsterdam results, but for me, just talking about the difficulties, again, I would like to add that of course, COVID-19 also changed everything 180 degrees. We talked about financial tools and Pakhuis as Pakhuis de Zwijger as an example of adaptive reuse with a public-private, with a lot of public-private partnerships, with holding up our own without a lot of government fundings, and without any structural subsidies. But now in COVID-19, we are experiencing that we do really need government subsidies to keep afloat, as it were. So that was also something that came up in the circular business model workshop. Was that we really need to have a lot of different financial funding systems in place and to be more resilient. So that's something that I would really like to add to the discussion still. I'm sorry, I have to leave for 1 minute now, but I'll be back in the conversation again.
Thank you very much, Thomas.
Yeah, actually, Alison from ICLE made a suggestion. If she doesn't mind, I can read her message. She says that it would be helpful to encourage the teams to continue to fill in the boards in the upcoming days. She said that, for instance, the team that she was involved in was not finished yet. So, I mean, we can keep the mirror board available for an extra 1 week. And if anybody would like to take a screenshot or, you know, just make some additions or changes, please feel free to do so. And we will evaluate the final version. And I would like to also indicate that the report from this workshop and also the video recording will be available online from the Click website, I mean, in a while. So you can take a look at that from there again. And Jillian, deeply apologies for the misunderstanding and inconvenience. We, of course, agree with your points, and we highly cherish all the values and views of the participants, everyone. It's just we had to be strict because a lot of people had to leave at some time constraints, so we had to dedicate the 4 minutes to all groups first and then come back. Apologies for the inconvenience. Anything else anybody would like to add?
Yes, I would like to ask if you will share a draft result of this workshop so that perhaps participants can in some way complement if they didn't manage to reflect too much about the different tools during the session. So perhaps during this week we can integrate in Miro or leave some comments in Miro. I don't know, so which way could be better to let participants share their thoughts, perhaps more in written form.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we can leave the Miro available to use for another 1 week. We'll send you an email about it too. And then in this 1 week, anyone can make changes, notes, additions. And once it's over, we'll collect everything and start the evaluations. And then once the reports are completed, they will be already available on the website.
Okay, thank you very much.
I also would like to know if there are partners outside of Click who are showing interest in some of the tools presented here, whether we can share the tools with them.
Antonia, would you like to respond to that?
You mean to share the presentations, this kind of things? I think that if the partners preparing the presentation have nothing in contrary, we can share the presentation. So for me, there is no problem. I would ask to the different authors of that if that is possible, but from my side, it's okay, of course. So it could be useful for practitioners, for the stakeholders to know more about the tools and to give their opinion about the feasibility of all this, so that we can also reorient a little bit our work to make it more attached to stakeholders' needs. I don't know if I answered to the question.
Yeah, that's that's really fine. And also, if they're then very interested, then I can get them into contact with the developers of the different tools.
Yes, I would promote this approach. So if there is any question or request of integration, integrative information, so it could be very useful to contact directly the teams developing the tools so that we can really have a fruitful discussion about this.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you for this question. Thank you, Thomas.
Any more comments or questions? If not, then thank you very much all for your time and your dedication and your contributions. We'll share the results with you. And yeah, thank you. It's been great to talk with you and keep up the spirit. Have a great day.
Thank you.
For
Bye-bye. Have a very good day.